Okay, we're starting.
We are starting. Hey guys, so last week we started talking about special education because it is the 50th anniversary this month of the signing into law that each and every child who qualifies for any given impairment area, which there are 11, I believe, and meets the need for special ed. So did you know those are two separate things?
No, I did not know that.
Oh, we might have something to talk about in addition to what we kind of talked about. We're going to talk about. So, you know what? I'm glad I brought that up because a lot of people don't realize that. So you can qualify, meet the criteria for an impairment area, but not require special ed. So the process, which I will be writing about this week sometime and posting it on our blog, or at least trying to give you a little snippet of what it looks like. There are two parts to an eligibility meeting. One is, does the child meet one of the impairment areas? And two, do they require special education? Just because a child meets the criteria for an impairment area does not mean they automatically qualify for special education. It is a discussion.
It's funny you say that because every time I've been in an IEP, individual educational plan, right? Is that right?
Well, that's the planning piece for the goals and the placement. So the eligibility piece would be the piece you participated in when they determined, does the child meet the criteria for an impairment area and or special education?
Okay, maybe I haven't been in a lot of those at the high school level.
Probably not. No,
it's.
I mean, call me out here because I know there's a few exceptions, but very rarely is there going to be an initial. Now, you might have been in a reeval.
I've been in a lot of revals.
Yeah, because revals you also have to revisit that.
Yes,
you should be revisiting that.
Yes, because I remember. Yeah, I remember going through all the questions and then say, do we as a group agree that so-and-so should still be or need special education services? And then we all say yes, yes, yes. We check that box and then we move on.
Well, in your magic word is require. And that's something that there are a lot of, we've talked about this before, words matter, but when you are talking qualifications for impairment areas and or special education, you really need to be specific and do the require, because we need a lot of things. We would benefit from a lot of things. And that's the way it was explained to me one time. Right? Don't think of it as a benefit, because we all benefit from extra things. It is something that is required of the student. So back to the student may not require special ed. So a student with, let me think. It's not going to come to me off the top of my head, but you can meet the criteria for other health impairment if you have an acute or chronic health issue that impacts your development, but you might not need special education, or an orthopedic impairment. So that is something more physical, where it might impact your mobility, but you don't need special education. You may need accommodations, and that falls under something else, but you don't need special education.
Accommodations.
And it's important.
Right. Obviously.
Because we're not just saying just because you qualify for an impairment area that you automatically qualify for special ed.
Right.
And you should be revisiting that. Do you know how often? By law, you have to revisit.
These are good questions, Joellen. I'm going to say 3 years. Am I right?
Yes!
Because I've been in a lot of them.
At minimum.
Oh, at minimum.
You have to revisit whether or not a child continues to meet the criteria for the impairment area and or the need for special education every 3 years. And those are your re-evals. Now, can it happen sooner? Yep.
Yes.
There's a little caveat because you don't want to be constantly reopening IEP just because. There has to be a valid reason. Typically, it's not done within a year of making that decision unless there's a really valid reason. And there are, don't get me wrong, but typically it's once every 3 years. One of the reasons being, you don't throw somebody into special education or provide those special education services and say, this is what you need for the rest of your life, because sometimes they don't.
Right.
And for a lot of our friends, it isn't a lifetime need. And by lifetime, I mean their public education lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not something they need. So, I mean, it makes sense that we should have to revisit it. And I think that's important that we talk about that. And as long as we're on the topics of things that we should talk about, accidentally coming across them, one of my biggest pet peeves, I'm just going to throw this out here right now, and then we'll try and let it go. When you get to that point where you are determining placement, can be tricky when it's early childhood, because a preschool age child, their natural environment might be a preschool, it might be home. There are a variety of places because school's not compulsory at that age. If they're 5 or older, typically where they're learning natural learning environment, it's the public school. So there's not a lot of discussion happening there unless there's reason to. But what drives that whole placement piece is the goals that you have written. And some people think about that backwards. They think that you should place the child first and then write the goals for the placement they're in.
Doesn't make sense
No,
to me.
no.
Okay.
But a lot of people think, well, this is where they are, what goals they need in order to be successful in this environment. But it is the opposite.
Yeah, right.
It is you write the goals. And you really have to have a discussion around what does the child need, what their placement in order to meet those goals. And there is a term out there.
Okay.
LRE.
Least restrictive environment.
Right here, regular ed teacher. Way to go.
I'm rocking it.
That's exactly what that term means. It means what are the services and where are these services provided? That is the least restrictive environment for the student. Guess what? That might mean a self-contained classroom. And guess what?
I know.
That doesn't mean you've placed them in the most restrictive environment. And it's one of those, again, nails on a chalkboard. You don't have chalkboards, but it pisses me off. It does. I hate it when I hear people refer to most restrictive environments because the only time it's most restrictive is if you have not considered the goals. If you have just made a decision based on what one person thinks is right or what's convenient for you or whatever it may be.
Okay, Joelle, I'm going to stop you right there. Give an example. For our audience, just give an example of someone saying that they need the most restrictive environment, and you're like, no.
Well, especially in early childhood, when you have multiple environments that you might be looking at.
Okay.
If we jump to an early childhood classroom, which is technically considered self-contained.
Yeah.
And self-contained means, and this is another area that can cause some confusion. Let me make sure I get this straight. So it means that is an environment that is not accessible by regular ed students. That doesn't mean regular ed students aren't participating because there are peer models, but it means that this environment has been created for a special education need. So that makes it self-contained. That can be a resource room. That can be an early childhood classroom. That can be a completely separate classroom.
Right.
So in a meeting or even after a meeting, some discussion I might have with colleagues, well, isn't that the most restrictive environment because it's self-contained? The answer is no. The answer is
I was
no.
rethinking everything you just said. I'm like, wait, what?
No, it is not. It is not. Because if as a team you agree that is what the student needs.
It's not because it's what they need.
It's what they need to meet their goals. That becomes their least restrictive environment.
Okay.
Whew. Okay, yeah, that feels good.
Whew. All right, we got
now,
that.
You can come at me if you disagree, because I'm sure there are some folks out there who disagree. But the legality behind it and the reasoning behind it, least restrictive environment is what you're planning for. You're looking at the least amount of pullout a student might need. And sometimes that means self-contained. Sometimes that means 60 minutes of direct instruction. Sometimes that means 30. It all is, if you're doing it correctly, happening in the least restrictive environment.
And it's what's best for you. And it's what's best for the student, right?
It is.
I mean, no matter what.
Absolutely is. That's why you have those discussions.
Right. That's
They're
why
hard discussions.
Yes.
They don't have to be, but they can be. And they're hard for a bunch of different reasons, right? We're talking about children. We're talking about somebody's child. And that's always difficult. Sometimes, and unintentionally so, resources make these conversations difficult. We're having conversations we need to have, but every one of us are thinking, how are we going to access that resource? Who is going to be that person?
And who's going to reach out
to
find it?
Right. Or even the level of support they may need, not just from a special education teacher or related service providers, which is another conversation we could have, but perhaps an additional adult, as in a paraeducator.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be a one-to-one, which, right?
It can be.
It could be.
It can be.
So I'm just throwing that out there because we have always had students that have one-to-one, and we, like, some people may think, well, why is it fair that person gets a one-on-one support as opposed to other children that don't get that one-to-one? Might be a small group, might be whatever. And so this is the reason, because that's what that child needs.
In order to meet their goals.
In order to meet their goals. And it's by law.
It is.
By law.
but it's still complicated.
Yeah,
right.
it
And
is.
it's complicated by a
Right.
bunch of different things that we touched on a little bit today. Something you said, even if we agree as a team that a student requires one-on-one support, our goal is always to fade that support, because sometimes it's got to be carefully crafted support. It's not doing the work for the child.
Yep.
It's not keeping the child from accessing their education. Your ultimate goal is independence, increased independence. So you want
Gradually
that.
release.
Yes.
A gradual release.
I like that term. Is that a term you guys use?
So well, and of course, yes, we say
Okay.
it. And actually, I do this as a regular teacher. I gradually release the kids into learning and doing and on their own. So it's like
I like that term.
teacher.
A lot of great terms
I
that we're coming up with. So, hey, we're hitting the 10-minute mark.
Yeah.
We're past it
We're
again.
past it. That's okay.
But this was a good conversation.
It
I like
is.
that. I wasn't sure where it was going to go.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to unpack in special education. Like I said, I'll try to write something up in my blog this month about it. But takeaways: the least restrictive environment is the environment the child needs in order to meet their goals. Gradual release is increasing that independence for that child. And all these things, guys, came about because we realized, or we were called on, mistakes we've been making, or maybe not best practices.
Yeah.
And these
sometimes
are
that
conversations
happens.
we have as a district as well. Sometimes it stems from a lawsuit. Sometimes it stems from a parent bringing something to our attention. Sometimes it stems from something DPI has flagged us on that we weren't aware we were not doing in a way that was intended. And guess what? You fix it.
You fix it.
And you do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
When you know better, do better.
there is your
Maya
little mini
Angelou.
IEP lesson for you today.
Yeah. All right.
Hoping you have a great, what is it, Monday?
It's a Monday.
It's Monday.
Yeah.
Hoping you have a great Monday.
And we do want to say to this, this
yes,
is
yes.
American Education Week. So, support your public educators.
And maybe we can touch on how you can do that.
Yeah,
right?
we'll do that.
I
We'll
think
do
we
that.
should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
Have a great day.
Oh,
Love.
2 tipsy teachers.
2 tipsy teachers.